Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to install Windows Server 2022 right on your laptop using VMware Workstation. This is a great way to practice Windows Server without needing a dedicated system or machine, whether you are a DBA, database administrator, IT professional, or just curious, this guide is for you. What we'll cover today, as we can see on the left side of the screen, to help us install our Windows Server 2022, first we're going to set up VMware Workstation for virtualization on your laptop, and then we will download Windows Server 2022 ISO from Microsoft. We're going to create a virtual machine in VMware on our laptop. We will install Windows Server 2022 step by step. We'll configure the initial server settings for that installation. And we'll take some time to quickly understand this process, this virtualization layer that we're using to install Windows Server 2022. Before we start, let me quickly explain why we're using VMware. Some people may prefer to use hypervisor. Whichever one you choose, the goal is the same for virtualization. Virtualization lets you run multiple operating systems on a single physical computer. So you can run Windows Server in a virtual machine without touching your actual system or your actual computer. As we see on the right-hand side of the screen, at the bottom right here, this is your computer at the bottom, which is the hardware. The hypervisor layer, this is the software, in our case, VMware Workstation, that sits on top of the hardware and manages virtual machines. It creates a virtual environment for each guest operating system. The operating systems, thanks to the hypervisor, you can install multiple operating systems. In our case, in this video, we are installing Windows Server 2022. The application at the top, each virtual machine you create in each box can run its own apps independently, just like it would on a real computer. This is great for IT labs, testing, training, and even software development because you can run several servers or environments on a single device. This is the benefit of virtualization and why virtualization is needed. So multiple operating systems on a single physical computer, sandbox environment for you to play and do whatever you need to do without affecting or being scared that your laptop is going to break. Perfect for learning, lab work, and testing. It saves money and it saves space. It saves money in the sense that you don't need to go get a separate system to use. It saves space because it's separating the virtual environment from your actual laptop space so that whatever goes wrong in the virtual environment, wherever you're testing, does not affect the things in your laptop itself. So now let's get into the lab. We'll follow the item on our list. First, we'll go download VMware Workstation and install it, and then go ahead to download the ISO for Windows Server 2022 and do that installation to create our virtual machine. You can go to Google to download VMware and install that. I think the latest version is 17, but I'm going to use 16. So I have that downloaded on my laptop already, and I'm saving it. I saved it in this temp folder. You can right click and run as an administrator, or just double click and to open it up as I'm doing right now. The installation is pretty quick and easy. It's just going to be nest. We accept the license terms, and then just click next until we hit the install and finish. So I'm just going to keep hitting the next button. And this would have it show on your desktop, and we can install. The installation is pretty quick. It should be less than 4 or 5 minutes. And once the installation is done, you should have this screen. It should ask for a license, but you don't necessarily have to put that here. You can click on finish, And if we go to the desktop, we will have the shortcut right there on our desktop. And then we can double click on it. And you can put in a license key here if you have a license key. Otherwise, you can use it free for 30 days. And it's easy to also get a license key. Lots of people offer free license keys on Google. You can go on Google and type in license key or free license key for VMware Workstation 16 Pro, and you may be able to find some. But like I said, I'm just going to go ahead to do these the 30 days free for now. So this is how your box will look once you get in. And before the 30 days expires, you can still enter your license key by clicking on the help and clicking on the enter license key and putting the license key information so you can use it for a long time. And like I said, you can get that on Google. Now for us to create a virtual box, we can click here to create, or we can come to file and click on create, click on new virtual machine. Now I already had VMware Workstation installed on my laptop before, so I'm just going to bring up what I had before that has some machines, so you see how it looks like when we have you have several virtual machines in your box. So these are the virtual machines that I have here. I think I have about 7 in here already. But right now, we'll go ahead and create another one so I can show us how to install Windows Server 2022. To do this, first, we're going to download Windows Server 2022 ISO, and I'll bring up my Google, download Windows Server 2022. I'll go ahead and click on this to download the evaluation because that's what I want. And I'll click on the 64 bits to download the ISO to my computer. I'm just going to save this in a temp folder. And since I already had this here before downloaded, there'll be no need to save this because it's practically the same thing. I'll go ahead and take this off this browser so that we can begin. Now, as I said earlier, for us to go ahead and create a virtual machine, you can click on here to create a new virtual machine, or you can come to File and click on New Virtual Machine. It should bring this window up. I usually would like to go with a custom. If I click on Nest and Nest, if you see here, the installer, it's asking for a disk. And because I've done this before, let me click on this. Because I've done this before, it's actually referring to the path where I have the ISO. That Windows Server 2022 we just downloaded the ISO. This is the ISO. So if you're going with this installer, this image, you click on this, you click on browse and browse for where you downloaded that file. I usually like to go with the custom. The reason I don't go with this most times is because um, I've had a few challenges doing this here before, and sometimes people get errors where it asks for additional information and sometimes the key. For instance, if I decide to click on the next button and it requires me to fill out information and it's asking for the product key, and this is an evaluation edition. Of course, you can continue without the product key, but I don't like to deal with this now. So instead, I click on this. I will install the disk operating system later, and I click on Next. Choosing that the operating system, so we're choosing Windows, Windows 10 or later. Click on Next. This is where you name your virtual machine. Just the way I have SQL AD, SQL O1, SQL O2, this will be the name of the machine. So I'll go ahead and give it a name. Let me just say, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to say Windows 2022. And this path, you can change the path where the virtual machine will be created. If you leave the default path, it's just going to be the default. It's going to be somewhere in your documents. You would see a folder that's created called virtual machines. All the machines you have created will be inside that folder. If you decide to put it in a different folder, you can click on the browse button right here and choose a place where those machines will be, and then click on Next. Firmware type, I'm going to choose BIOS, and I'll click Next. Now you can choose the number of processors that you want, or if you're going with the default, you can. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to go with the this default that we have, but you can actually choose the number of processors that you want and the number of cores per processor that you want, right? And then click on next. Here you can adjust the memory setting for this specific machine that you have in here. If you're creating more, just like I have here, you want to make sure you adjust properly based on what you're needing this for. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to leave this as is, and I'll click next. And for the other parts, I'm just going to click next, next, next. And when it gets to creating the new virtual disk, we're using a new one because we're creating a new box, an independent box. I'll click next. Here is where you specify the maximum disk size for this specific machine. Now, it's recommended to use 60, but you can actually do less than this, especially if you want to have multiple machines in your box like I have. For the sake of this demonstration here, I'm just going to use 30, or you can use 40 or 50, depends on what you're actually wanting to do with your box, right? And what you're going to be installing here. And then this split virtual disk, this is fine. And I'll click on next and next. And if you're done, usually you can just click on the finish button here to finish up. But I want to come to this customize hardware because you can still make some changes. If I click on customize hardware, remember we did not upload the Windows ISO file yet, the Windows Server 2022 ISO. I'm going to click on customize hardware, and all those settings that we just chose, we can still adjust each of them right here. So for the hardware, so for the ISO, the Windows Server 2022, I am going to click on New CD or DVD Center. I am going to click on Use ISO Image File, and I'm going to browse to the folder where I have my Windows Server 2022 ISO sitting. So I'll choose that ISO. This was what we downloaded, if you remember. Click on Open, and we have this image. So that's the Windows Server 2022 image that I have on there. You can also look around, click on Advanced just to check if you need to make adjustments. I don't. If you need to change the processors again, this is where you do that. If you need to adjust the memory, this is where you do that. If you need to adjust the display, this is where you do that. So I have all of these the way I want it to be right now. I am going to click on Close. And now I will click on Finish. And just like that, we have our box created or our virtual machine created with a Windows Server 2022 in there installed. So it's created and it's off. We can see it right here on the left-hand side with the name that we chose, Windows 2022. I am going to power it on. You can right-click on it to power it on, or you can also come right here to click on this. Now, something else to also understand is even though you've created this machine already, you can still make adjustments. If you click on right here where it says Edit Virtual Machine, if you made some mistakes, you can click on this as I have done, and it will bring you to these configurations again, and you can still do things right here. I'm going to close out of this. I'll power on the machine. You can see we're logging on for the first time, so it's taking a few minutes to come on. Now we get this interface. So I'm choosing English. I'm choosing English, the United States. I'm going to click on Next and Install Now. So this is our Windows Server 2022 setting up. Now, once that is done, it brings you to this interface. This is very important. What you choose here can frustrate you or can make you happy with your setup, right? So I want to deal with things that I can see using GUI. You don't want to go ahead to choose Core. So I'm going to come down here to choose Windows Server 2022 Data Center Evaluation desktop experience. And we're also using the evaluation edition. So I've chosen the desktop experience because I wanted to have an interface that I can deal with, not just a black screen, and make sure it's highlighted, and I'll click next. Accept the license terms and click next. When we get to this screen, we're not doing any upgrades. So you want to click on where it says custom install. And this is where you remember the size that we chose for this whole thing, the disk, that 30 GB where it was recommended 60. So this is what's highlighted. This is where everything is being installed. It's highlighted and I'm clicking next. Now it's finishing up that setup. This is going to take a few minutes, so I'll just pause the recording for it to finish. It's finishing up. So now when it's done, it brings us this interface. So this is very important. When you log into your server, just the way you have administrator, you're going to have an administrator here. So you want to choose a password here for the administrator when you for logging into the server. So I'll choose a password and then click on finish. We have our Windows Server 2022 installed in the VirtualBox on our computer. Now to get in here, we don't use the Control Alt Delete on the keyboard. You want to come at the top right here and click on this. We can log in with the password that we just entered. Now we're in our server, we're in a box. We can see how this looks. It looks so small in the middle. Now to remove these black edges that we have on this side, we'll go ahead to come over here to where it says VM at the top, this tab right here, and we will click on Install VMware Tools. And right here, so I'm going to click on this, and I will run the setup. This is going to remove this black background or these black edges that we're seeing, and it's going to make everything look and big. So we'll click next, and everything we do is just to say next and then install. Once the installation is done, we're going to see these black spots being removed. We can see now it's filling up because the installation is done, and those black edges or black spots or backgrounds have been removed. And it should require us to restart once we click on finish here. And it's requiring us to restart the computer. Now, before I go ahead to restart, or before you go ahead to restart, you can do a couple of things, because now you see you have a server, like a real server that you have at work. It can come over to where it says local server, and right here we can see the computer name, even though we named it Windows 2022 over here, but it has a different name in here. So you can actually change this name. I'll click on it, and I would click on change and change the name just to match the same name that I have for the machine. I'm just going to say Windows 2022, and we can click on OK. Now, I'm going to do a separate video showing us how to do this when we're talking about the domain, but we have nothing, we're not dealing with the domain right now or creating a server that's going to be a domain controller. Windows 2022. Usually it shouldn't have space, but if you had space, you should get an error. For instance, if I decide to click on OK, if I click on OK, we can see the error message that I got right here using characters that are not acceptable. So I'm going to come back and remove the space and click on OK. Now it says I must restart to apply the changes. Before those changes will take effect, OK. And if you want to make additional changes, you can restart now, you can restart later. If you want to make additional changes before you restart, you can choose to restart later. If you want to deal with the firewalls, you want to turn those off, you want to turn things off and on, you can actually do that. Enable remote desktop. Of course, I definitely want to do this one. I can click on where it says it's disabled and go ahead to enable that option right here. Yes, I choose to enable it. I'm going to uncheck this and I'm going to say OK. So we should see here now remote desktop is enabled. I'm definitely going to restart, maybe turn off these firewalls because it's just my lab. I don't want to deal with any of this stuff. And you have your Windows Server 2022. So now you can install your apps. You can install SQL Server, build whatever you want to build in your server. Before I go ahead to restart, I just want to also show us right here. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to always bring up VMware to walk like this and have this very small window. I usually like to take the whole screen, and you can do that. At the top right here, you can see this icon. You can click on it to enter a full screen. If we check on our drive, of course, we only have, it's just going to be our C drive basically in there. There are ways to add additional drives. I would leave that for a different video, but you have Windows Server 2022 installed. I'm going to go ahead and to click this to take you back to where it was before. And once you're done dealing with this, if you need to shut down this virtual server, your virtual box, you can right click on this and go ahead to power off, shut down guest and power off. You can also rename this machine if you need to. There are a couple of things you can do. And something else I like to do once I have this set, once I restart the computer, I'm going to do this. I like to take a snapshot of this so that if anything happens and I don't want to go through the process of reinstalling all of these, I go to the snapshot manager and just install. If I click on the snapshot manager right now, we can see I have nothing here. But if I close and right click and take a snapshot, I can call it snapshot one and just put a description here. Let's say, and I'll take a snapshot. And that's done. If I right click on this and go back to snapshot, we can see here, it's asking me to revert to my snapshot one. So you can take a couple of snapshots, and if anything goes up with your server and it's messed up, it can take you back to the position that you were in before. If you go to the snapshot manager right now, you can see what it's showing you here because I have that. If I right click again and you go to manage, you can actually create a clone of this. So instead of you creating a different machine from scratch, you can clone and have multiple machines. And that is it. You've successfully installed Windows Server 2022 on your laptop using VMware. You now have a safe environment to practice whatever you want to practice. Let me know in the comment section if you'd like me to do a follow-up video on setting up a domain controller so that you can link other servers together, especially DBAs if you're trying to do or practice always on availability group or FCIs, and I'll be glad to do that. So I'm going to go ahead to power this off and power off. And once it's powered off, it's going to be like this. And to power on again, I can power this on and it comes right back on. So I'm just going to turn it off and show us if you decide to delete this virtual machine from your virtual box, you can actually do that. As it's off, I'm going to right click on here and I'm going to come over to manage and I'm going to click on right here where it says delete from disk. Clean up this space just helps you reclaim some space when this is shutting down, but you definitely want to delete from disk to remove this. So I'll click on this and I would say yes, and it will delete that from here and delete it from the folder inside my computer so that that space can be reclaimed. So what we actually did in this video, just to recap, we downloaded VMware Workstation and we installed it on our laptop. We downloaded the Windows Server 2022 ISO from Microsoft, and we created a virtual machine with the ISO that we got from Microsoft installing Windows Server 2022. We did a few configurations on the Windows Server 2022 settings before restarting the computer. And we also explained why we had to do this, talking about what virtualization means and the benefits. If this video was helpful to you in any way, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you for your time today. See you in the next video.